In February 1943, Erwin Rommel sent an urgent message to Berlin. The American army could be defeated. He had just proven it at Kasserine Pass. 3 weeks later, that same American army shattered everything Rommel believed about how wars were fought. And the man who made that possible didn't understand armor. He understood fear, and how to weaponize discipline. This is the story of how one battle exposed a fatal German assumption, and how one general's ruthlessness changed not just one campaign, but the entire doctrine of modern warfare. If you want to understand how wars are actually won, not the myths, but the systems, subscribe now. Because what happens next will change how you see military leadership forever. In February 1943, the American army in North Africa was untested. Green. Scattered across Tunisia in separated columns, under a divided command structure. When Rommel attacked, he didn't face a unified enemy. He faced fragments. The Americans collapsed not because they were cowards. They collapsed because their officers had never coordinated under fire. Armor units lost contact with anti-tank support. Artillery couldn't receive orders fast enough. Infantry broke formation because no one had drilled what to do when German panzers appeared on the horizon. One American unit retreated 8 miles in an hour. Another held ground they didn't know how to hold, and broke when the second assault came. Kasserine Pass wasn't a defeat. It was an exposure, a system failure broadcast across the battlefield. Rommel watched this unfold with professional clarity. He noted every gap. The Americans didn't understand combined arms coordination. Their doctrine was static. Their leadership was cautious. Their communication channels were slow. These were not character flaws. These were institutional problems. And institutional problems, Rommel knew, took time to fix. The Americans lost nearly 200 tanks. They lost over 2,000 men as prisoners. Most importantly, they lost something you cannot always see on a battlefield: confidence in their own system. But Rommel saw what mattered. He sent a message to Berlin. Rommel's dispatch was direct: the American army is not yet ready for modern warfare. Their command structure is fragmented. Their tactical doctrine is predictable. At this rate, we can contain them. But, and this is critical, they will adapt. And when they do, they will do it faster than we expect. Rommel understood something German high command did not want to hear. The Americans had something Germany was losing. Not better tanks. Not superior generalship at every level. They had institutional flexibility. They had officers who could be replaced. They had a system that could be rebuilt without waiting for permission from Berlin. But Rommel made an assumption. He believed change took time. Months, perhaps. Years, possibly. Doctrine doesn't shift in weeks. Training doesn't transform overnight. Officer corps don't reverse course without bureaucratic resistance. German military reform under Göring and Keitel took years. Surely the Americans would take just as long. This assumption would shape every German decision for the next 20 days. Rommel told his commanders, "Contain them. Keep them off balance. We have time before they become dangerous." Berlin listened. And Berlin agreed. What was German high command expecting? First, American forces would consolidate in fixed defensive positions. Cautious generals holding ground they could see and defend. Second, when attacked, they would follow predictable patterns: staged withdrawals, retreats to prepared positions, slow and methodical responses. This is what doctrine said armies did. This is what German doctrine demanded. Third, coordination would remain the bottleneck. Command and control always lags in war. Messages get delayed. Units misunderstand orders. The friction between intention and execution would keep the Americans constrained. Fourth, any reform would be gradual. Hesitant officers would resist aggressive tactics. Training cycles would slow change. Politics would intervene. German leadership repeated these assumptions through every briefing. The Americans will be defensive. They will be slow. We can predict them. This assumption would be fatal. Not because it was illogical, it was rational, based on how armies historically function, but because it was built on a false premise, that the Americans would take the time to think. On March 6, 1943, George Patton arrived at 2 Corps headquarters. He had one job: fix the American army. Not in months. Not in weeks. No. Here is what Patton did not do. He did not give speeches about courage. He did not rewrite doctrine from first principles. He did not replace every officer with trained replacements. Here is what he did. He made discipline visible. He ordered every soldier to shave every morning. Not because facial hair affects combat effectiveness. Because shaved soldiers report to a schedule. A shaved soldier is part of a chain of command. A shaved soldier has internalized that someone above him sets rules that matter. He ordered officers to inspect uniforms. He ordered vehicles to maintain maximum readiness. He instituted radio protocols so rigid that every operator followed the same rhythm. And when hesitant commanders showed caution, he relieved them. Immediately. You cannot understand Patton's genius if you focus on his aggression. His genius was recognizing that the American army didn't need new tactics. It needed to believe tactics could work. Patton was a system shock. He removed hesitation the way a surgeon removes infected tissue. Within 72 hours, American officers stopped planning retreats. They started planning assaults. If this breakdown is changing how you see military strategy, like the video, it helps this channel bring you more analysis of how wars are actually decided. On March 20, 1943, Rommel sent his final offensive. German armor would attack American positions at Guettar. He expected the same response as Kasserine Pass, an initial shock, followed by fragmented retreat, followed by consolidation further back. Instead, something unprecedented happened. American artillery, coordinated under a single fire control system, opened at exactly the moment German tanks crested the ridge. Not scattered, disorganized fire. Synchronized. Time on target. 120 guns firing on schedule. The German armor scattered. The Americans did not retreat. They advanced. Anti-tank guns that had been positioned in crossfire angles opened fire. Infantry didn't break formation. They advanced by squad, leapfrogging fire teams, something German doctrine said American green troops couldn't execute. German officers radioed back, "They are coordinated. They are aggressive. They are not falling back." But worse, from a German perspective, was this. When American units took casualties, they didn't request permission to reposition. They executed pre-planned withdrawals to prepared secondary positions. Every movement had been drilled. Every radio call carried information, not emotion. Rommel watched this unfold in real time. He realized something he had not predicted. The Americans had not developed new technology. They had developed new discipline. German doctrine required the enemy to break under coordinated assault. This enemy didn't. German doctrine expected disorganization under pressure. This army responded with tighter coordination. The contrast was not subtle. German technical superiority meant nothing against American institutional adaptation. Guettar was not the largest battle of North Africa. It was not the most technically complex. But it was the moment German doctrine stopped working. What the Americans learned at Guettar became doctrine by Sicily. By the time of Sicily, American coordination under fire was not an exception. It was standard. By Normandy, American units under fire could execute complex tactical adjustments that would have seemed impossible 3 months earlier. German commanders, meanwhile, kept expecting the Americans to function like they did at Kasserine Pass. The Americans had moved on. German doctrine hadn't. This is the crucial point. Rommel's warning wasn't wrong. He correctly identified the problem. But he miscalculated the timeline. He assumed institutional change followed the rules of German bureaucracy. Instead, the American system was designed for exactly this: radical, rapid adaptation without committee approval. Officers made decisions. Decisions were executed. Outcomes fed back into the next iteration. Speed, it turned out, was not a tactical advantage. It was an institutional one. By the time Rommel realized the Americans had fundamentally changed, the window for containment had closed. German armor in Tunisia could not adapt as quickly as American doctrine evolved. The campaign was lost not because American tanks were better, but because American coordination got better faster than German doctrine could respond. In April 1943, Rommel sent a revised assessment to Berlin. The American army is no longer what it was. They have solved the coordination problem. Their officers act with speed. Their doctrine evolves under pressure. They will be formidable. Berlin did not listen. Senior German command attributed the change to better equipment, not better systems. They expected the Americans would plateau. They didn't. What Rommel understood, and what German High Command refused to accept, was this: you cannot contain an enemy that changes faster than you do. Rommel's original warning was correct. But it came too late. Not because he lacked insight, but because he did not foresee that doctrine could be revolutionized in 3 weeks through leadership discipline alone. The irony is this: Rommel was proven right in his analysis, and proven wrong in his timeline. And because of that error in judgment, he became the witness to a transformation that should have been impossible. Here is what Guettar actually proved. Leadership does not mean better plans. It means faster adaptation. Doctrine does not mean superior doctrine. It means doctrine that can change. Adaptation does not mean trying new ideas. It means enforcing discipline until new ideas become automatic. Patton did not win at Guettar because he was more aggressive than Rommel. He won because he transformed institutional hesitation into institutional reflex. He made the American army something it was not: predictable to itself, unpredictable to the enemy. German doctrine assumed that change was slow. American doctrine proved that change was a choice. And once that lesson was learned, the American army never stopped applying it. Every campaign that followed, Sicily, Italy, France, Germany, saw the Americans improve faster than the Germans could respond. Not because they had better generals, because they had a system that learned. If you want more stories about how wars are actually decided, about the systems behind the myths, about why some armies adapt and others don't, subscribe now. Watch the next video on screen to see how this doctrine, born in Tunisia, reshaped the Allied invasion of Europe. And if you want to understand the future of warfare, remember this: victory belongs to the force that can change faster than the enemy can predict.